Hello and welcome to another Blender Geometry Notes tutorial. In the first video, which I published a few days ago, I used a grayscale image to create this sort of halftone effect by sizing the real geometry using, of course, geometry nodes. Then in the video after that, I used the same basic setup, but I added color to the geometry, also again using geometry nodes and assigning the color attribute to the geometry and using that in the shader. Now in this video, we're gonna take it one step further and create RGB pixels. So let's jump right in. And I'm back in Blender 3.1 stable. Right. This is the result from the last tutorial. If you haven't seen the first two tutorials, maybe you should watch those first, because we're going to use this geometry nodes setup that we already have here and build on top of that. So, well, this is that. Now, first of all, let's start and create that pixel that I was talking about. We're not gonna need the lights anymore, and I will hide this plane quick. And I'm gonna create oh, by the way, the screencast keys work again now in 3.1, so you can see what I'm pressing. Okay, Shift A, Mesh, Plane. And I'm gonna go into edit mode and create sort of an RGB pixel. Now I know that there's different layouts of RGB pixels on this displays. I'm just gonna keep it very simple and just go Control R, create two loop cuts right in the center here. Then I go press 2 to select those two edges and hit Control B to bevel those, right? So I'm gonna get a little, I'm gonna make a gap basically. I'm gonna hit 3 for face selection, select those two faces, and X only faces. So this is going to be 1 pixel. Now all we need is the shader, like the R, G, and B colors. So I'm gonna create a new material. Let's call it Pixel R. And we're gonna use nodes. No, let's go to the shader. Pixel R, okay. I want an emission shader, and I want this to be pure red. So no green, no blue, pure red, awesome. We're going to control the strength from the attribute from geometry nodes. So this is how that is going to work. We're gonna need an attribute. We can take the color that we already created in the last tutorial and split that up a little bit, like converter separate RGB. And then we use the red channel to control the strength of the red emission shader. And also I'm going to add a math node in here, set to multiply, and set that to 1 for now. And then I will assign this pixel. I'm gonna go into edit mode. Hold on, edit mode, go to face select, take this one, the red one, and assign the red color. Cool. Now I will duplicate this color and use it here, but rename it to green and make it green. No red, all green. And assign it to this face. Assign. And then again, I'm going to duplicate that guy. Call it B. Assign it red, green, blue, right? Assign it to this one and make it just perfectly blue. Okay, so if I go to a shaded view or rendered view, I'm gonna need the RGB. Cool. So now let's go back to geometry nodes. Let's hide that pixel. You know what? I'm gonna call it pixel. Let's go back to our plane here, which is called plane, which is not really a good name, but who cares? we're not going to use the cylinder or the icosphere because we want to instance, I also don't need the smooth, we want to instance the pixel, so we can just drag that in here. Here we have the pixel, this is what we need to instance. And then you can see we have a lot of, because they're huge, we have a lot of geometry here. We are not going to use this for scaling, we're just going to get like a uniform scale. I don't know how big this is going to be. Pixel, hide the pixel. Plane, oh, okay, those are very small. But before we mess with the scale now, we can figure out how we do this here. I downloaded the Blender Open Movie Sprite Fright, and I'm going to use that in here, just like what you saw at the beginning of this tutorial. And I know that this is 640 by 268 pixels, the video that I downloaded. So let me just get some inputs in here to make this a little bit easier. So this is going to be my 640 and the 268. Okay. That's the size of the video, because I want to essentially drive this here so that I have the correct aspect ratio and I can sort of dial in the resolution that I want. 640, I'm gonna need a utilities math, multiply, take this, then take another multiply for this one. And I want a factor, so I'm gonna need an attribute. No, I need an input value. Okay, so this is going to be my factor to multiply this, and this is going to be my size X and my size Y. So now I can close those down. Well, if we keep that, let's just do 0.1 so that Blender doesn't crash. So now we have a grid that is 64 meters wide. That's a lot, isn't it? Yes, it's huge. I don't think you can even see those little pixels, but this is huge now. Okay, so we have to take this down further. Okay, looks like this. It is very widescreeny, then 64 by 268 pixels. Okay, now we still have 100 and 100 vertices, so 100 by 100, but we want square pixels. So we also need to take this and drive our resolution of the grid. Okay, this is the factor. Let me put that up here. And then we take another factor and duplicate those two multiply nodes. Oh, I should have done that with the noodles, but we can quickly connect this up and put that in here, X and Y. Okay, so if we multiply that by 1, we now should have 640 pixels on the X and then 268 on the Y. So this will be full resolution, but that's a lot. So let's take it down to 0.5 maybe. So we have this. Now let's play with the size of these pixels, right? Let's look on the top left here. How about we play with this? You know what? I'm gonna take another value and plug it in here. And then 0.01 maybe. We still have some overlapping here. 0.5. Kind of small. So I do want a little bit of a gap in between. Yeah, 0.009. That looks good. And we already have a picture here. But we don't want this picture anymore. I'm going to open the Sprite Fright movie. So this is an MP4. And we have the frame from our timeline connected up. And what can we see here? Sort of a Blender logo. Awesome. Now, what else? Okay, I'm gonna take my camera, switch that over to be an orthographic camera. And now I can't see anything. because I will also take a math node, utilities math, and add 3000 frames here to my scene frame number. And we have some sort of weird mapping going on. And that is because we still have this in here, where we got the UV map from the original square. You can watch the last tutorial. I'm not going to use this anymore. In fact, I can even go in here, where's that, and get rid of this vector input. Don't need that. In fact, I don't need this whole thing, the whole geometry input anymore. So now this is what we can see here. Let's drag this out and do a vector math node in here and plug the position in here. Okay, so now we're not using UV maps, we're creating our own mapping basically. And a cool node for that is the multiply add, which multiplies and adds. And that's a very handy node because in the past, you always need a multiply and an add node if you want to do some vector math and scaling or mapping stuff. So this is one node that does two things. Very cool. We're going to add 0.5, right? I mean, the z-axis doesn't really matter because it's a 2D image. And then we're going to add multiply 1. So we're back to this. And now we can use these factors here to lay out or to map the original image onto this grid of pixels here. So how do we do that? If we take the multiplier down, we can stretch it that way and we can stretch it that way. And really all we need to do is figure out what those values should be. Also, if I take this down even further, maybe even less pixels. Now, of course, we have a bigger gap, but I just turn it down a little so that the viewport stays snappy. Maybe we should, before we do that, maybe we should figure out how we can get the colors in here. So on the grid, we're capturing the color attribute and putting that onto the realized geometry. That seems to be good, but let's see if we can figure out what's going on. Why is it all blue? Pixel, the R. Oh, I know why. Because we need to use the green for the green. Oh, come on. We need to use the green for the green. And we need to use the blue for the blue. And then we have 1, 1, 1. Do we have some colors here? Multiply. The red, hold on. On here, we're putting this out to attribute and we called it col. Yeah, that seems to be correct. So I'll go back to shading. The pixels are all blue. There's something wrong with our pixel object. So shading, pixel object. Let's go into edit mode on the pixel object. Get out of camera view. Edit mode. This guy needs to be red, assign. This guy needs to be green, assign. This guy needs to be blue, assign. Okay. And then we have colors. Okay, let's get rid of the pixel. If we look through the camera view, we can already see some pixels. Very nice. So here we go. This is it. Now, maybe I do want some more resolution here, 0.5. So we have a lot more pixels, and you can see we have red, green, blue. And then where if it was white, then all three would be 100% brightness, and then from a distance you get white. Except that the blue isn't bright enough yet, but we'll take care of that a little later. Right now I just want to take care of the mapping. So we can do that down here with our multiply add. Let's play with those values a little, just eyeball it. It doesn't have to be perfect. A different scene or image frame could probably help. So, let's do it like this, and then maybe bring this out a little, so we have this mapped out nicely. Cool. Now for the brightness values, let's do some more shading. Let's go back to shading, switch that off. If I look through the camera here, oh, I have to set this camera. I want this to be HDTV 1080p, like that. And then I have to play with the orthographic. So we don't have any perspective anymore, so we can see top down, but without the perspective, we're just looking straight top down. I can play with the orthographic scale here to get this into frame, or actually, this is very widescreen. Well, let's get the whole thing in here. Let's do it like this. Cool. Now, by the way, if you have an orthographic camera and you go GC, it doesn't matter where you are, as long as you're above what you're actually looking at, right? So if I look through the camera here and I go GC, you can see it doesn't matter, but of course I have to be in front of what I want to look at. So I can put this anywhere I want. This is my result. Now let's play with the brightness a little. And I do think I want to increase the resolution. I don't know, 0.6. Get more pixels in here. 0.5. Yeah, that is pretty cool. But we need more brightness. So let's go back to the shading. Pixel. And this is why I put this multiply node in here, because this is supposed to be white here. And it's not. And that's because the blue is always way not bright enough, basically. So I can multiply the blue by a factor of 5. Blue. And the green factor of 2. Are we getting closer? Red. If we keep red at 1, or we could do red at 10, green at 20, and blue at 50. So we have a real bright display. Yeah, that looks pretty cool. Might be a little bit too bright. So let's do 30 on the blue and maybe 15 on the green. So that's that. Now, if I go back to geometry nodes, select this guy, I have the frame in here. So if I go 500 frames for the entire video, and if I hit play now, we get movement on our pixels. So I can zoom right in and you can see the RGB channels of the pixels are actually creating the colors, just like on your monitor or TV or smartphone. Oh, this is a good frame to take care of some of this mapping here, because this is still a little bit too big. I can change the camera a little so that I can fit that in there. Awesome. And then we get this. And there's the sprite moving, and we can zoom in and we have pixels. And it's all non-destructive. I can change the resolution. I can still change the size, although this size factor here is now exactly what my camera sees, so I'm not going to mess with that. But I can go 0.3, so I have not so many pixels. Of course, I would have to go in and change the pixel size here, right, to make them bigger again. Maybe let's do that quick. It helps to go in here and zoom right in and then check out what the gap here is. 0.2, we have overlapping, 1.5. 1.5 looks good. Maybe 1.6. Yeah, 1.5. A little bit of a gap so we can actually see that we have pixels. And then we get this. So if I put this on full screen, hit play, we now have cool RGB pixels. Awesome. Now, what else can you do? Because this is all very flat now, right? So you could go in here and displace this grid. For example, we could do set position node. So this grid is just a grid of vertices. And if we set the position of a grid of vertices, we have to use this down here too. Then we can displace this maybe on the Z-axis. How do we do that? We go Shift A random value, set that to vector, and we want to not change the X, but we could change the Z-axis a little bit and put that in here. So we're moving all of our pixels randomly on the Z-axis. So if we still look down from the top view, we still have our image. But if we rotate this, we now have this awesome effect with all of our pixels. And you could, of course, animate this like with keyframes or something, or you just set it to 0.5, and then if you look down, top down, you have the image. And if you rotate your camera around, you get that. This is the finished node tree. Okay, just a quick recap. So we create a grid of X and Y pixels. And then we instance over here our pixel object, which has 3 pieces basically in it, the red, the green, and the blue part. And we instance that to that grid. So we're replacing the grid, and then all we have left are the pixels. We realize those and transfer our color attribute from our input video or image onto that geometry. And then in the shader, we use that output attribute to assign the color. Actually, we take the red and assign it the intensity of the red pixel part, and the blue for the blue and the green for the green. So it's actually pretty easy. And well, all that's left to do now for you is to play around with the shaders, the intensity of the lights, maybe with the displacement like I showed here. Then you animate your camera through it and you create some cool looking animations like these. And that's it for this tutorial. I hope you liked it. I hope you learned something new. If you did, please give the video a thumbs up. Consider subscribing. It's free. You can support me and my channel over at patreon.com/ChrisP. You can find me here. Thanks for watching. Chris P out.
For more awesome content, like and subscribe now.